Took us a while, but we're finally here, and I'm Kobi,
And I'm Liln.
and we're finally going to sit down and watch Game of Thrones, the final season. Now, people who know me, I've already seen the season, I watched it when it aired, and you can tell already from some episodes that I've not held it in good favour, but by some miraculous miracle, my friend here, Liln, has not seen the final season.
Or been spoiled for anything except one slight spoiler, which we can talk about later.
But yeah, this is a little introduction. We thought we'd just set the groundwork for this bit, because when we next speak, we'll be seeing after we watch the series. So, how are you feeling? Are you anticipating anything, but more so, how are you feeling in prep for this?
Well, I'm in for a wild ride, and I know it's not exactly going to be a fun one. So I do know people's opinions on the show, and because that's been made very public by almost all of my friends. Everyone that has seen it has said it's very, very disappointing. So I'm going to go in with really low expectations, and if I come out with even lower expectations, then I'll be very, very sad. But I'll try and go in with low, give it a little leeway, but I'll give my thoughts at the end after I watch it. I honestly don't know what I'm in for.
Oh, you have no idea. So, see you in a bit. So, this is a little intermission right now. Wasn't planned, but we just finished watching episode 3 of season 8. So, what's your first impressions, mate?
So, there's, I get what you mean. There is so much wrong with this. There is so much wrong with this. First off, tactics at the beginning. Why did they fucking just send the Dothraki to go die and join the undead? God fucking knows. They got given godly flaming weapons, and they were just like, yeah, let's just die. Second off, like, the use of like tactics moving into the castle and stuff, that was all like fine and dandy. They could have used the Dothraki, you know. But yeah, and they used the artillery for like 2 seconds. Each trebuchet I saw fired like 2 shots. That is barely anything. That is like what, 20 undead maybe killed if you're lucky. Very stupid. Very, very stupid. Also, the main characters, all the main characters, so many of them should have died this episode. It would have been a perfect episode to kill like at least half of them off. But they're all still alive.
Mm-hmm.
Almost all of them. Like, how thick is their plot armor? And there's also, what the fuck was Bran doing?
Yeah.
What was he doing?
Exactly. God damn it. He has had the most magical journey and the most tied to the White Walkers outside of Jon. And you'd think that, considering everything they set up with him as the Three-Eyed Raven, like, oh, one day you will fly, you have the power to see the past, present, possibly the future, you'd think that he would have some big revelation, big plot reveal, anything, or at least take part in the battle, because we know he can walk into animals, we can walk into dragons, we know that he could have walked into direwolves, Jon's direwolf if he wanted to. Heck, and here's another thing.
Also, what happened to Ghost?
You'll find out.
Right, okay.
But here's another thing, going a bit behind the scenes here. The director of this episode, I think it was the director, he admitted in an after show, some weeks after the season ended, I wanted to have a big army of direwolves come in, because we know that Nymeria was out there. She's still alive. She had a big pack with her, and we know in some way that's going to play into the future books, and he wanted to involve them in the battle, but D&D said no.
Oh.
Now, whether that's because of budget or because of, like, no, we don't want that to be included or whatever, we don't know. But it could have done anything for Bran to do, at least to take part in this conflict.
The whole time he was fucking about with ravens. Like, literally, the ravens flew up into the air, flew past the Night King, and then fuck knows what they did. Fuck knows what fucking Bran did the whole time. Like, he was in eye rolling back orgasm mode. and like, he reached his full power, he went Super Saiyan, and then nothing. Why?
Yeah. And I personally thought that when they got to that moment with the Night King where he's looking at them, and they just spend a few seconds looking at each other, I thought for a second, oh, is there going to be some big revelation here? We're going to find out something that's more interesting to the White Walkers than just killer machines.
Hmm.
Because we know that this Night King was once a human. And you'd think that there would be, again, considering Martin's work, it's not simple good versus evil. You'd think there would be some big revelation about the Walkers that would have made us sort of maybe sympathise with them, or maybe see things from a different point of view. But no, that one scene in the last episode where he wants to rid the world of all knowledge or whatever, that's his motivation. The White Walkers, okay, so what about the symbol from the very first episode of this season and all the seasons prior? What about the babies that he was taking and turning into White Walkers? What is all that supposed to mean?
The Whites did almost nothing. They literally walked around with the Night King and watched him do stuff. None of them took command. None of them were involved in the battle. I didn't see a single White. Did you?
Well, White's the army, but you mean White Walkers? Sorry.
I mean the actual White Walkers that follow around.
Yeah, the White Walker generals.
The White Walker generals. They did shit all. They did shit all. That's kind of disappointing. You could have done some cool stuff with them. Like, if they put up a tactic where it's like, oh, they're just stupid undead, or we'll put up some kind of barricade, and then the commanders come into play and actually direct the undead away from danger and move them around. That would be awesome. That would be terrifying. Like seeing them in coordinated swarms. That's more terrifying than just a deadly swarm.
Yeah, and seeing them actually fight some of the main characters and killing them.
Yeah, no, they didn't fucking kill any of the main characters. They tickled them.
Yeah.
The whole time they were pushed up against the wall. But I swear to God, Brianna Tarth screamed a death scream at least 7 times. At least 7 times she was on the floor being pushed up against the wall, and she was just going, ah! And what did they do to her? They tickled her. She just didn't want to be tickled. Come on, guys.
And Sam too. Goddamn Sam, the Invincible at this point. But there was so many. I mean, I get it. He wants to prove his worth or whatever. But goddamn it, you think that at this point they'd established that he's the book smart guy. He's the knowledge guy. He's like Tyrion. He should have been down in the crypts. Because honestly, half the time, sure, he took some action at points, but half the time he was running away.
Also,
the other times people were saving him.
Great idea, fighting the army of the undead to hide in the crypts. I thought that might be a little bit stupid, but I didn't think they would do it because I thought it would just be too obvious. But I guess that it does make sense that they would revive the dead, and that includes the ones in the crypts. It's just weird, man. There's so many things wrong with this that they could have done so much better.
Yeah, I mean, people have since said, hey, why didn't you just barricade yourselves in the Red Keep? Well, no, not the Red Keep, but the Winterfell Keep. And people generally thought that the series, this kind of conflict was going to end with everyone retreating from Winterfell through the crypts, and the undead would attack in there, or the more out there theories, which I actually did like in some form. This is delving into a bit of a fan theory territory, where apparently the undead in the crypts, because in the books it's implied that there's greater magic involved in there. There's something going on in the crypts because John keeps dreaming about it. Bran has a few dreams about it, and some theorized prior to this episode airing that maybe there's going to be some event happen where the Night King will raise the undead in the crypt, but they won't fight with them. They will fight against them. So you'd have this almost big scene of Ned Stark's corpse, or Heather's corpse, Catelyn Stark's, Robb Stark's corpse, the old Starks of the Winters that came before long dead. They would rise up and protect the current living. And in retrospective, that's a kind of a bit stupid considering everything else.
It's cooler than what they did, though.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a better idea than what they did, but also it would have been cool if say the crypt was somehow a holy ground and they couldn't walk on it, something along the lines of that, because the zombies, I keep calling them zombies, but the Whites couldn't.
They can never pass the wall.
They couldn't back when they were trying to get Bran, when he was becoming the Three-Eyed Raven. They couldn't cross that ground, could they?
No.
So I thought it was going to be maybe something like that will come into play, but no, the Night King's dead now.
Yeah.
Is that it? Is that it?
Yeah.
What are they going to do now? Go back to squabbling over the throne? What was the whole vision from Daenerys about the throne being iced over and stuff? Oh, it's so stupid. They I feel like this episode 3 scenario, the Night King should have killed Bran, and it should have ended with the surviving main characters, including Jon, maybe Daenerys. Well, we need to know more about Daenerys, so her plot armor would have made her live. Like a few of the main characters sneaking out of an underground tunnel of the crypts and somehow making it to King's Landing, and then like having to deal with Cersei being a bitch, and then getting attacked by the Whites again. Like that would have been cool. But no, I don't know what they're going to do now. I can't even begin to guess, because there's nothing. That's the end of the series. Technically, that's the end of. That was the biggest bad. Yeah. I don't even give a shit about Cersei right now. Don't give a shit about her. Like, what's she do? She's sitting on the throne just chilling. Like, whatever.
You can't beat death, and they did it. So now what's the big conflict? Oh, we've beat death. We'll be fine.
Right, now it's time to finger Cersei. I don't understand what they're going to do now. I can't even begin to guess. Yeah. There's so many characters I thought would die in that big battle. There's so many, and it would have been cool. It would have been fine. I would have been fine with them killing fucking Jon Snow now. Like, there was also a lot of scenes, like in terms of actual design in choreographing the scenes from the directors. Some of the scenes where people are surrounded by the undead. I'm just going to call them the undead. So they're surrounded by the undead. And this is the scene specifically I'm thinking of when Theon is protecting Bran with all his men. When they were charging in, they got off about 1 arrow each, and then they would have just been taken down and eaten. But they were fighting for ages, and all they had was bows, and they ran out of arrows. But like, there was too many of them to even get 2 arrows out. They would have reached you by the time you've drawn for the third one. Like, I don't understand how they were. Like, there's quite a few scenes where people got surrounded and like all the undead were charging in at the same time, and you think that's it, and then somehow the next scene they're still fighting, and there's like barely any of the undead left.
Yeah, I mean, Sam is literally lying on the floor at one point, surrounded by corpses with Whites, and yet he stabs one. Yet why are the others not attacking him? And Jon too, when he was trying to get into the Winterfell, the tree area where Bran was.
Yeah, the God Tree.
The God Tree, yeah, sorry. He was being chased by a swarm of undead, and then he ran to the dragon. Where did they go? Why didn't they keep swarming him?
I have no fucking idea. There's a lot of stuff which wasn't directed correctly, and I think that's due to them rushing it entirely. Like, there's a specific job in cinema where I don't remember the actual name of the job role, but it's the person that goes through each scene in like a movie and checks everything is in the same place. Because you know how like there will be scenes where you're looking at somebody, there's a coffee cup on their left, and then all of a sudden on the next scene it would have been on their right. There are jobs allocated to that. I feel like there was none of those people around when this was being filmed, because there is so many errors everywhere. Like, when Jon was surrounded with all the new army of the undead, next scene, there was only like 5 in front of him, and everyone else was dead. How the fuck did Jon do that? Absolute queen. He just bitch slapped those undead, completely taking the fear away. I do agree with Arya Stark getting the kill on the Night King. Funny enough, I actually like that.
Really?
I think she's the most competent warrior out of all of them. The amount of training she's gone through as being an actual assassin, it makes sense. It makes sense to me. And that little move she did at the end, pretty cool. Pretty cool. But that should have been at the end of the season, not episode 3. They've killed the big bad. What are they going to do now?
I'll say this. I'm actually quite glad you've got a different opinion because I am fully against it, and here's why. I'll explain as best I can. But Arya's storyline has nothing to do with the undead. It was never set up. It was never established, and they tried to sort of say, "Oh, it was," by having the brown eyes, blue eyes, green eyes thing thrown in there. But they clearly change it up because in the previous episode,
I forgot about that. Like I forgot she even met the Red Woman, to be honest.
But that scene all the way back then, that was meant to be foreshadowing that she would kill people by becoming a faceless man. The green eyes being Cersei, possibly. The brown eyes being Walder Frey, and so on. And the blue eyes would have probably been someone maybe like...
The Night King, I thought, because blue eyes.
Maybe, but I think that wasn't it. But, again, there were more popular YouTubers out there who can go into depth about why this wasn't happening, why it didn't happen. But I personally think from a story point of view, it makes no sense, because A, it wasn't set up for Arya. There's my girls barking again. B, again, what about Jon? His entire story from the beginning was dealing with the threat of the White Walkers. He never even got to fight the Night King. So why in season 5, in season 7, why have that stare down with him and the Night King? Why did they never have some form of conflict with this episode? And I'll say this, I could have maybe forgiven this outcome if Jon was there, if he tried to fight the Night King, and if it ended with him and Arya stabbing him together. Because that would have worked with him fulfilling his purpose in the story. It would have worked with him then almost unifying the Starks together by taking down the threat of the dead. And if they wanted to, they could have killed him off then, and they could have done what they do next without him. I don't know. There's much more ways you can twist this current scenario to make it a bit better, at least. But I really just don't understand why they thought this was a good idea. And it's another just a factor of why the fuck did you do this, D&D? Because they admitted they I'll show you this after we watch this episode maybe. There was some they released some behind the scenes featurettes afterwards to basically give their thoughts on the episode, and they said that they intentionally chose not to show Jon killing the Night King because even though that was his arc, they felt it didn't seem right, and Arya just disappears and they'd hope you'd forget her, and then she comes in and saves the day. So tell me this then, from the real world's point of view, because this show is pretty much, from the early seasons, very grounded in reality.
Yeah,
and
they tried to be really realistic.
Yeah, but tell me this then, in a real world situation, how does Arya Stark, who, while skillful as an assassin, is not Assassin's Creed, how can she, in the Godswood, which is surrounded by an army of undead, the Night King's in the middle with Bran, how could she get to him, jump to him, which clearly shows what she's jumping? How could she do that?
Do you know what would have been really cool that I literally just thought of?
What?
What if she stole one of the faces of the undead and pretended to be undead, and the Night King didn't notice, and then she got close enough to charge in?
I don't think that would have worked, but if she took...
Dondarrion. I guess you have to prepare the face and stuff.
Yeah, but I'll say it's the guy with the sword. If she took his face, maybe it would have worked. That kind of scenario. But it's just... And there was another behind-the-scenes featurette where the director of the episode admits that Arya comes out of nowhere, and they show him filming it, and it's literally just her jumping.
Well, so, I thought literally the Night King was too preoccupied. You know how he's in control of all the undead? I thought he was too preoccupied with about to kill Bran and be very satisfied with himself, that he wasn't focused on the attention around him. And because he controls the undead, there was a scene where one of the generals, his hair kind of brushed past before...
Yeah, that was meant to imply that was Arya jumping.
Oh, I thought that was Arya just running past him really fast or something to get to the Night King.
But we know from the earlier scene that the moment the undead, even the whites, see or hear something, they would react. Yeah. So I personally can't believe that she would just charge through them without one of them noticing and just stabbing her in the gut. Yeah. Or the whites, if they're as strong as they are, considering the Night King was able to hold her up, just grab her, stop her from running through.
It would be really cool if she was like hiding in the tree or something and she jumped down on him or something.
Yeah, but then how come she's at the alternative angle? She's jumping towards the tree. Because there's only one tree in the main room, and I think there's other trees, but they're far near the walls. So how could she? Unless she's jumping very far.
No. I mean, like, what if she was hiding in the tree from the last time we saw her? Like, just before the undead attack, Arya comes into the courtyard and hides in the tree and waits for the Night King. That would be pretty cool. But I get, like, there's a lot of things like that doesn't make sense. And like I said, there's supposed to be people's jobs to like do that, to like say this doesn't really make sense because of this. So what if we add this? That's literally there's a job role for that, and it doesn't seem like any of those people were hired for this. So, I mean, as interesting as that battle was, it was very visually pleasing. Didn't make much sense. Yeah, as visually pleasing as it was, shit story.
Yeah.
Really disappointed, honestly.
Yeah.
And surprisingly, though, I'm quite eager to see what happens next because I have no idea what they're going to do now. No fucking clue.
Yeah, I'll say this because I'll probably say this more for the actual after final episode discussion, but for me personally, I just felt that the whole message about we need to stop our petty squabbles, we need to focus on fighting the dead, I think that was just the much more compelling narrative for this story to go through. And like you, I did think that, oh, this is going to be the middle conflict, but they're going to have to retreat, go back to King's Landing. There's going to be some eternal inner conflicts, but they're going to eventually band together and fight the dead together. And Bran will do something magical with his storyline that will help them in their defeat of the Night King.
Yeah,
I just felt that
Arya could have killed Cersei, and then Jaime could have taken over if he survived the battle. Like, or even better, Tyrion. Tyrion could have like become the king of King's Landing. That would have been awesome. But like just oh no, he wouldn't because he's Daenerys' hand. Or I don't know. Whatever. Like something cool like that could have happened. But I don't think so. Because they like to do the things that aren't very cool.
Yeah, it is almost kind of funny how this. Some people say this is almost paralleling to Last Jedi, where they kill the big bad Snoke.
Yeah.
Very underwhelmingly. Even though it would make more sense for the plot and the narrative for him to survive and be the big bad at the ending series. And funnily enough, Arya actually pulls a move by killing him, very similar to how Rey pulls a move by dropping the lightsaber and killing one of the Praetorian guards.
Yeah.
I think that's just a funny coincidence. But I think even Ryan Johnson came out saying, love this episode. So, so another reason to dislike the guy.
Yeah, fucking hell.
But yeah, again, we'll go more in depth for my thoughts overall on the series ending, because I just do feel like this is the turning point for the series, where it's like, what the fuck did you guys think was going to happen? What did you do? And I'll end this part of the discussion by saying this. In some form, this could have worked. This ending, killing the Night King, killing the Army of the Dead like this, and continuing on afterwards. It could have worked if they did two things. If they kept the 10-episode format, and they made it an additional 2 seasons. So if this was the ending to Season 8, we would have had a whole other season to deal with what's going to come next. But they didn't. They chose to end it with 13 episodes, Season 7 and Season 8. And this is what we got. And again, I'm just saying it. It's no wonder that after this time, almost a year, I think, a year and more since this aired, people have already forgotten Thrones. It's like, it's the show that was popular for a time, but it's forgotten. It's the new Lost. Why? Because the showrunners decided to rush the ending we've got Star Wars under our belt, we'll be fine.
I think they were just done with Game of Thrones, to be honest. They didn't know what to do because George R.R. Martin would just refuse to write the last book. So I guess they had nothing to really go on. So they were kind of in the dark with the writing, so I understand why it'd be a struggle. But when your job is a screenwriter, or when your job is a script writer, and you have multiple of them all discussing ideas, how is this the outcome?
And I'll just say this, because the production team who made this episode, props to them, because they achieved some big heights with this episode in terms of extras, the battle, and even some of the fight scenes. Because there's some in personal shots in this episode where you see Jon fighting and everyone else fighting, but I think this is a cool shot, this is a cool move, this is a cool swing. And even they, again, from certain reports from other YouTubers, apparently even they were in the darker point because D&D wouldn't show up to set to help them choreograph stuff. But yeah, no disregard to them, because they worked their arse off. Yeah. And even the actors. It's, at the end of the day,
no, it's not the actors' fault. Absolutely not. They don't write the scripts. The actors are brilliant, like, regardless of what's happening. Like, Brienne Tarth's screams were actually, like, pretty convincing that you're getting munched on,
Yeah,
or even though she wasn't, but like all the acting has been on point so far. So no diss to the actors.
mm. In that moment where you hear her scream, you think for the few seconds, oh, is she dead? That's convincing. Oh no, she's fine. And even the Night King, his brief moment staring down at Bran. When I first watched that, I thought, oh, is this a moment? Is this a moment between the Night King and Bran? Is this something that's gonna?
That was a really cool stare he had. That like from Bran being a really expressionless character because he knows so much. That is his character. I saw a moment of fear in his eyes when he looked at the Night King in the eyes, because the scene where it showed this perspective of Bran in the chair looking up at the Night King, he did look quite scary there actually. Like that was the first time I thought he looked scary. I think I thought he looked quite silly throughout the whole Game of Thrones thing, but he actually looked quite scary there. So that was a really good shot. And then Arya just shanks him in the knee or something. But yeah, I quite like Arya killing the Night King. I think it's too obvious to have Jon kill the Night King. I don't like the cliche of the main character killing the main bad. I really don't like that, because it could be anyone that kills the king in like a real medieval battle. Like a king on horseback just riding around giving commands. He's an open target. He's just going to get shot by probably the cook that picked up a crossbow or something. Like anything can happen to a leader in battle, and it's not going to be the other king having a really suspenseful duel, because that is unrealistic, I think.
True. I just do think that from everything that was set up, at least, and I wouldn't say. I mean,
but like you said, Arya and Jon could have fought him together. That would have been cool. Yeah. That would have been fine.
I do agree, yeah. I can see where you'd think it's actually quite shocking in a good way to have Arya kill the Night King, considering her skills as well. But I do still think that there was no setup. You had all the setup with Jon. You had no setup with Arya. So it does feel cheated.
When was the scene that she dropped the dagger the first time, kicked it, grabbed it again? Was that again when she was sparring against Brienne of Tarth?
Yeah, in the last season.
I guess you can consider that a slight foreshadow, because that was but I guess that I thought they just set that up because it's like a really cool move. Obviously, I didn't expect this.
It's a cool move, but again, they admitted in, I think in the after show interview of this episode as well, that we planned Arya killing the Night King for 3 years, so 2016. But again, if that's the case, then the show around that time, season 6 was airing. So if that was the case, you should have started foreshadowing this much earlier. Heck, if you were planning this from the beginning, which is what they claim sometimes in certain interviews, we had our last meeting with George back in 2013 to discuss the rest of the series, so we should have planned out from then why not do that from there? When Arya was in the House of the Black and White, why not have certain scenes where she goes through trials that hint to the undead, hint to the White Walkers, hint to Jon maybe, that could have made some things feel a bit more a natural progression. And with Jon, if they weren't going to make him be the killer of the big bad, why have those two big stare downs in 2 big episodes? And this actually came out last year, I believe, but the production actually admitted, I think someone in production actually admitted that back in 2013, when Jon Snow was filming his scenes, he was told personally by D&D, you're going to be the end game against the Night King.
I mean, one thing I was really disappointed by as well is you didn't even get to see the Night King fight.
Yeah.
Like, we saw him throw a spear twice. Ever. That's all he threw a spear at the first dragon and killed it, and then he threw his spear at the dragon in this battle and missed. Why is he so scary again? I don't know. 'Cause he just seems like another undead person to me, to be honest. If he was super skilled in battle and really there's a reason he was the Night King.
If he was Sir Arthur Dayne reborn, flipping swords, that would have been added more. Yeah, this guy's deadly. But
yeah.
No,
and that's why it would have taken the 2 most prominent warriors in the entire series, Jon and Arya, to take him down together. But I guess that's not the route they wanted to go down. Well, I guess we should watch the rest and see what happens next.
Indeed.